Morning, sunshine. How are you?
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Cubs win, Cubs win.
Are you doing it on purpose, sounding nasally?
I was doing my Harry Carey.
Yeah.
Cubs win, Cubs win.
All right, gotta talk. I'm not giving you first crack at it like I normally do. We're gonna talk about the Minnesota shit because we're in some dire straits here in the good old U.S. of A.
Oh boy.
The girl who died yesterday was shot by an ICE agent. Give me your raw thoughts on it. What do you know about it?
So as of now, all I know is a woman in a vehicle was headed towards an ICE agent. ICE agent, I'm assuming, is claiming that he had said stop. She accelerated into him, so he shot her.
Okay.
Is what I've heard.
Thoughts?
While it's tragic in any situation that someone loses their life, and it's tragic that things have escalated to this point, if you don't want to get shot, don't drive your car towards law enforcement.
Okay.
So if in fact that is what happened, I can't be surprised if someone's shot when they're driving towards law enforcement. Again, it's a shame that we're even in this predicament and that the temperature is so high on this. I don't know. I'm still gathering more info.
Okay. I mean, I hate that politics is so callous that someone loses their life, and rather than just be willing to do whatever to protect life is beyond me. Like, we're talking about this person as just a sacrificial statistic, whatever. Nobody's reverse engineering it and saying, hey, we don't want this to happen again. Let's do the things that make this less likely to happen a second or third or ninth time. So let me reverse engineer. Let's dissect it a little bit and put proper blame, right? Because, you know, there are elements that everybody sort of has their own perspective on it. And a lot of that perspective goes through a political lens, and you lose kind of reality on it. So let's be objective about it. So number one, you have these states that are basically law-breaking states. Okay. When you have illegal immigrants that are being protected and laws are being kind of like shelved, right? Then you basically have a culture of lawlessness. So these little experimental laboratory zones of let's see what kind of laws we're not going to follow and how we're going to insulate criminals from justice and being able to pay consequences. Yeah, I can name 5 states, right, that are this way. And what that does is you have the state level who is more tolerant of allowing people to break the law. And then you have the federal government who says, this is law, this is justice, and this is what we're going to do. So these things are in mathematical conflict. If the federal government comes to a state and uses its power to enforce federal law in a state where the people are like, laws, right? What do you think is going to happen, right? You're going to have people who are like, hey, the law is when you're given a directive by law enforcement, listen to them, right?
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Federal law enforcement says something, you comply, right?
Even if you disagree.
At
the moment,
it up with the courts.
Yep. You'll have your time.
Yeah. And
in the moment, you got to comply.
So the mayor and the governor and the city officials should be like, all right, guys, we effed up. We gave you guys a pass, and we made it so that you can loot and riot and cause havoc and disregard, all the authority when it comes to law enforcement. But these Fed guys, they're serious. And if you do that with them, you are putting your life in big time danger, right? Don't F with them. And so that would be the talking points behind the podium is I'm going to warn the people that those guys are not us. And if you like your life a lot, get in line, right?
Yeah. And so Julie's saying if you had seen the video from by Frame, you would know she was murdered. I have also seen a post that somebody said, here's an angle that you see. He had no choice. She was gunning for him. I have not seen either video. I don't know. You would like to think that lethal force is the absolute last resort. It is, I know I have no other way out. I have no other choice. It's me or you. and it's not going to be me kind of thing. But yeah, have we made it so that they are all in situations that is what it is? Like every situation is life or death. Every situation is heated. Every situation is whatever because of the climate that has been created that, hey, these people feel as though rules don't apply to them and law enforcement is an option. And law enforcement feels like I have no backing. It's them versus me and they are out for me. It's like a war zone. And what are you going to do to quell it?
Well, if you know the policy, what police follow. So if I said, hey, if you do X, you will get shot, right? You know what you do? You don't do X.
You don't do X,
okay? Yeah. So I watched the video from every conceivable angle, and I'm not going to forensically evaluate. That's not my job here, right? Did I see, if you said, hey, was the person behind the seat, did they contribute to the bad situation? Did they block ICE officers? Yes. Did they gun it and try to get around and escape? Yes. Blame on the person that is now dead. And was the officer put in danger where shooting this person was a true defense? Was he following training? Yes. But did he add some extra options in there that could have meant that he didn't have to kill somebody in that moment? So let's just say he's on the right corner of the car, right? It's coming at him. Wheels are jerked to the right. It's on ice. It's moving towards him. He steps one moment or one step to the right. The car's not going to hit him. This lady flees. She gets away, right? So now you chase her down and you arrest her and you put her in prison. She didn't have to die. Now, does the police training allow them that if you're being threatened by a deadly weapon such as a vehicle, you can shoot them? You don't want to shoot them unless your life, if he's dead center of the hood, there's no way to jump on either side. And shooting her is the only way to stop. Like shooting her did not stop the vehicle and increase the chances of survival for it.
Yeah.
It was a punitive shot, not and a justified punitive shot, but he probably did not have to shoot her, right, to escape the situation.
Did he shoot through the windshield or the side?
Windshield.
Okay. That was going to sort
he
of
was
give me a visual
probably like
too, what was
the
going
right
on.
side of the hood, right? One step away from not being in the pathway of being hit by a car. And again, she had already gunned it. So it's not like he shot her, foot came off the accelerator, and now his life was spared. So both things are true. Life could have been preserved, and she could have gone to prison rather than being killed. And she could have done 500 other things that would have made none of that scenario play out the way that it did. So it is going to be messy because everybody, I'm going to say the cop had the least amount of poor decisions. And, if I'm a cop and I have to make a split-second decision and I have to do the right thing every time, but you're the one about to deprive someone of their life. So it does come on you to make all right decisions.
I know. And that's like I said, I have an issue with the term she was murdered. To me, murder is premeditated. Homicide, manslaughter, there's lots of other things, whatever, other than murder. Do I want him to go straight to deadly force? No. But did he go to her or did she come to him?
Right.
Who approached who?
Right.
She knew where he was. She knew what he was doing. She knew exactly what he was she knows he's armed. She knows he's doing a job he was hired to do. She didn't have to go there.
Yeah.
He didn't come looking for her.
She was the aggressor.
Yeah.
Right. She did all the wrong things. She had 100% failure rate. He had like a 25% failure rate only because he used the big option, the nuclear option, instead of other things that could have been.
She came to a fight and he pushed the red button.
Exactly.
So it's like,
it's exactly right. So if the messaging is for the next person who's like, all right, you want to be an aggressor and get in ICE's way, fine, right? Let law enforcement do it. You're going to get tackled. You're going to put in the back of a paddy wagon and you're going to go in front of a judge who's going to release you 17 minutes later. We can all have objections in how this goes down. Should there be a punishment for that kind of behavior? Yes, but losing your life shouldn't be one of those. And I fault both of them. Her for being the total aggressor and making all poor choices, and him for not trying to pick another option other than taking someone's life.
Yeah. Julie says they were screaming at her to move, then stop. She waved them by. Can you accept that she was confused?
She was in that position because she was being a pain in the ass, blocking a federal vehicle. Like, she wasn't there by happenstance.
Yeah.
She was being an idiot and trying to put herself in a compromising position.
Confused? If she was confused, would you stop and be like, I don't know what you're doing?
Yeah, what would you, okay, let's just say reasonable person, right?
Yeah.
You're an idiot. You're in the middle. You know the federal agents are now pissed off, right?
Yeah.
What do you do?
I would stop. I'd probably go like this. I'd say, I don't know where to go. I don't know.
Yeah, your option wouldn't be hit the accelerator
the
and gun it at a
pedal's
federal
not
agent.
what I do.
That would be a poor choice.
Yeah, like here's the thing. I would rather, and this is a if. This is an if. I have not seen the video. If this situation is that, yes, hit the accelerator, came after them, was where she should not have been, all of that. What's the most logical motive? A confused woman ended up in the situation, or an angry protester who doesn't want ICE there came to be a part of this beef. That's probably what
and if she lived in a law-abiding state, she would know when she's told to do something. She just can't take her entitled self, hit the gun, and run away from the cops. She would know that when you do that, that's a bad thing, and you've escalated to the point where you're now in danger.
Yeah. I mean, to me, like, if I get pulled over, just a typical traffic stop, what are we all taught? Hands on the wheel. Don't move until it's okay. Give them what they asked for at the time. There are all kinds of precautions that every single American citizen knows. You are now in a situation that is high tension with an armed person, law enforcement, and you've got to be careful in this.
And your argumentation when it comes to that deal happens with the court, not the officer. You are now in a legal stop where you have to comply 100%. If you disagree with it, take it up with the judge.
Yes.
Right? If you think you're in the right, take it up with the judge. It's not conversations.
Yeah.
It's compliance.
We've talked multiple times about the time that I was pulled over speeding through a school zone because I didn't know I was in a school zone. This wasn't the time for me to argue with the police officer. Right. I didn't say, what? No, I wasn't. You're full of it. I didn't know. It's this, it's that. I just went, oh, okay. I know I'm going to court and I will be able to say all these things. I'm not fighting with the cop here.
Right. But in a lawless state, you don't have a regard for authorities in law enforcement. And so you think that because they've conditioned you that you could just like run away and they're not going to chase you and they're not going to, shoot you or tackle you or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So the state ruined how the public has a relationship with laws and the things that you're supposed to do. They don't know the protocol.
Yeah, we have developed a culture instead of respecting law enforcement. It's them versus you.
Exactly.
100%.
Right.
Emmanuel says, I've looked at multiple video points. They come up to her door and asked to step out of her car. She overreacted and decided to drive away. In the heat of the moment, that officer thought that the car was coming at him, but her wheels were turned away from the officer. She made a bad decision and the situation got escalated quickly.
That's right. And I could tell you if law enforcement would communicate with the public and say, federal officers are here, they don't play, don't F with them. Like, I'm surprised they tolerate as much as they do. Like, I always look at Secret Service, I feel like they don't F around. They're not looking out for you, right? You get in the wrong spot when someone's coming through and their job is to protect somebody, you will be on the ground in 20 seconds and taken in, and the conversation is going to happen far away from the danger. So if I'm doing a raid or an investigation and I've got people that are following me around trying to impede that investigation, they would be arrested in 1.2 seconds.
Yeah.
The minute that you pulled up on 5 vehicles that have a job to do, there would be one vehicle that was tailing them. They would be arresting everybody who was trying to get in the way, right? Yeah. I can't believe they're as tolerant to that behavior as they actually are. Try to do that with Secret Service vehicles. President's coming to town, and then pull your vehicle, try to get in the way of the motorcade. What do you think is going to happen?
Oh my God. Yeah. Julie says, I would like to see how you would react with guns in your face. I feel like my gut instinct would go,
I would be on the ground saying, I'm not a threat.
Standing still. I am in park. I'm in park.
What do you want me to do?
And I won't move a muscle until you tell me to move a muscle.
It is not the time to run away, but I know in those states like Oregon and Minnesota, they just have a habit of, oh, you're a police officer. I have no respect for your authority, and I'm not going to listen to you. And the cops are just like, okay, because they've been neutered in those states.
Yeah. Dale says, did you know her husband died in 2023 and she was not mentioned in his obituary? Also, her wife, the lady filming it, had a rap sheet in Missouri and other states for protesting.
Yeah. And
Jerry says, I hope Julie's never on a jury.
But it's pretty predictable that in all of those states, you immediately aren't objective like we're doing and weighing the side and knowing that if the true principle is we don't want people to needlessly die, we want law enforcement to be able to do their job. So reverse engineering it, I'm not doing it to find fault. I'm making sure the next time this happens, it's just not going to be a replay where we take the same positions and say it's all police fault or it's all other person's fault. This was dumbness on all accounts. The state was dumb. The governor was dumb. The mayor was dumb. The lady was dumb. And the cop had better options.
I feel like the idea of you versus me, as in citizens versus law enforcement, has been reinforced time after time after time by lawmakers, by city officials, by government officials, by everybody else that's not them, that is higher up. They've used it as a political ploy. They've used it as something in their back pocket to manipulate voters. Us versus them mentality at all times. And the only time you hear, oh, we've got to lower the temperature and we've got to make all these people think differently, is after the tragedy has struck. Right. You're too far gone now. You've allowed this to happen. You've participated in the temperature rising. And then when, God forbid, tragedy strikes, all it is now again is a political argument. Yep. It was her fault. It was his fault. Oh, don't disrespect law enforcement. Oh, law enforcement is overstepping its bounds. Now we're fighting about this instead of how we got here. Yeah. And that's how they want to keep it.
The mayor, immediately after, said, ICE, get the F out of our city, right? Yeah. So it's communicating to the public, even local governments don't respect the authority of the federal government to do their freaking job. And so when you communicate that to people, they get emboldened now to nobody wants you here. I'm as a public, a citizen, I'm going to take a stand against a federal agency.
Yeah, because move. As that person, did I go above ICE? Did I go to the administration and say, hey, I don't think this is working here. I think this is more of a hindrance. Let's revisit this. Can we get these people out? Because here's what I'm saying. Didn't do any of that to the entity that matters. Mm-hmm. Went public to the citizens, knowing they are already up in arms, and said, get the F out of here. And all that's doing is once again feeding right into it. Yep. ICE is a bad guy. Law enforcement is the evil one. We should all be fighting back. And look, even our leaders feel this way. Instead of going about it the logical way and the more effective way, because that does not keep emotions high, does not make you look good to voters, does not give you now something to bring up down the road when it's election season. It's all for their benefit. Yep.
Anyway, total stupidness. MLO bros say we have the biggest, smartest mouths in the area, if not the state. Cops draw guns, we shut mouths, put hands up, and say, yes, sir. And that's what needs to be communicated. Mm-hmm. Mayor Fry, this is what I would say if I were in his shoes. All right, we're not happy that ICE is here, but they've got a job to do. We can't do it. They have authority to be able to do it. Stand out of their way. Let them do their jobs. The quicker they can get this mopped up, the faster that they're actually out of here. Yep. Don't play the hero and think you're going to go up against you're just going to get yourself hurt, and de-escalate it. The local police have a job to do. Stay out of their way too, and have a respect for the authority that is in your neighborhoods right now. Instead of the opposite, they're the Gestapo and they're evil and they should be stopped. And now regular, dumb, normal people are like, oh, we have fascists in our neighborhoods that are arresting innocent, immigrants. And I got to stop it because that is the noble thing to do. Just backwards.
Have you by chance seen that Netflix special, The Perfect Neighbor? I actually watched that last weekend, and a lot of people know about this. I guess it's like some acclaimed Netflix documentary. It's a true story. It's footage made entirely from body cam footage from law enforcement that repeatedly got called to this neighborhood where this woman, it was basically one woman versus all her neighbors. They thought she was a Karen. She was constantly calling the police on little kids playing, being overly sensitive. Everybody was like, she should just move out of here. She doesn't like any of us. She just wanted everyone to stay off my lawn, quit being loud all the time. I don't want kids around me, kind of thing. Well, one night, one of the parents of the kids just got over it. One kid came over and said, she threw my toy at me or something like that. And this woman went across the street, banged on her door to get in her face. And the neighbor shot through her door and killed this woman. So the whole documentary is, whose fault was it? You put yourself on her property, banging on her door, yelling at her, and you got shot. Now, the woman is shot through a metal door. How much did you actually feel fear for your life? You didn't call the police, you shot first. So it was kind of this like, who was in the right, who was in the wrong. You should watch it. It'd be interesting to see your take on that.
Penny said they are not law enforcement. They have no training and they have no emergency medical training. They're hired thugs by a federal government. Well, they are law enforcement and they are enforcing federal law. And this wasn't like a traffic stop. They didn't pull a car over. And while this has happened, think of like the federal jurisdiction of a federal vehicle and its agents are this bubble that follows them around. She entered into the jurisdiction of trying to mess with their duties as an official to official immigration official.
Yeah.
So she went into their bubble. They did not come into hers.
And all the more reason, if you believe that, if you truly believe they're not even law enforcement, they're not trained in these situations. They're thugs with no conscience of how law should work. Why in God's name would you go near them? If that's actually your description of them,
risk. That was a choice, and that was your risk.
Then that's even worse. Then you're going up to a loaded gun knowing they don't know what they're doing and they have the authority to do whatever they want. If you think that, why in God's name would you approach them?
Yeah. So if they have the interactions between the public and federal officials, right? Somebody who's charged, let's just say a U.S. Marshal, right? He's not pulling cars over either. But if a threat comes into the bubble of a U.S. Marshal, even though they are on, they're chasing a criminal, a convict, or somebody that's on the most wanted list, right? Now, you come into their bubble and assault them, they're still a representative of the federal government. You can't do that to an agency of the federal government, no matter which agency it is. And that's exactly what this girl was doing. She was getting herself in the way to impede where they were headed. And you've now, you've pitted yourself against the wrong person.
Does it feel like the same group of people that is like, why does the United States have to police everyone and why can't we just leave them alone, are the same ones that are sticking their nose into situations here and like, why are you policing ICE? Why are you policing this situation? If it's their fight, you're coming in unarmed and uneducated. And I don't know. It's just sort of like.
Well, yeah, and you're allowed to disagree with what they're doing with ICE. You're allowed to express yourself.
Yeah.
If you want to get on the curb and scream at vehicles as they go by, fine.
Yeah.
But the minute that you make it more than an expression of speech, when you use violence or you try to impede or whatever, now you've gone too far and you've broken the law.
Yeah. Yeah. You can, like you said, if you're going to stand with a sign on a street corner and yell things, you can do that. You want to talk to your congressmen or your representatives, absolutely you can do that. You can say, oh my gosh, next election cycle, anybody that is for this, I am not voting for. You have all these different things you can do, and none of them is put yourself in front of them in a vehicle or with a weapon or in their face. That's just asking for trouble. It is.
So, but it was like that. And this is like, I think everything after Vietnam broke the psychology of people who disagree with things. Like the tanks in Tiananmen Square, little girl goes in front, or the guy standing in front of the tank, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that was meaningful to them because they were like standing up to the big authority in front of them.
The Jane Fonda sitting.
You feel like a hero when the person was at a huge disadvantage, stopped the big evil tank. And they got in love with that because it's sort of romantic in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So when ICE vehicles, you disagree with ICE, you disagree with ICE vehicles, you disagree with detention facilities, standing on the curb doesn't feel like you're being noble enough, but lying down in front of the car, that feels like you're playing a bigger role.
Yeah. Gosh, there's some couple that we missed that are up a bit. Julie says, what the heck does that have to do with it? This is the 9th shooting by ICE. The last one, the ICE Gestapo said, hey guys, I shot 7 times and he has 5 holes. Beat that one. Again, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know what you're referring to. Maybe that happened. All the more reason to stay away from them.
Let them do their job.
Yes.
Get out of their way.
What are you going to do?
Not become a target of them by misbehaving. Like, I've watched these people protest. They go too far every time. And they are flirting with something bad to happen. And if you want less bad things to happen, stop flirting with that destruction.
Yeah. And again, don't use the term murder. If you believe they are dangerous, lawless punks standing around with their weapons, waiting for someone to approach them, waiting to cause a problem, and you decide, I'm going to go approach them and cause a problem, that's not murder. They didn't come after you. They didn't premeditate to kill you. You injected into them. So if you actually believe that that is them, that they're not law enforcement and they're acting way above what they should be allowed, all the more reason to get the hell out of there. Don't run towards that. Why would you?
Yep.
Why would you?
Constitutionally, they don't have authority to be there. That is still to be debated. Police power is left to the state. But federal government has jurisdiction in the capacity of illegal immigration. And yes, it's still a conversation to be had. But the due process, you guys like all this due process talk. So when you disagree with whether something is legal or not, what is the due process? You put it before a court and let a court decide. Mm-hmm. And if the court rules a certain way, you let law enforcement enforce that. There's nowhere in the due process that you take it upon yourself to what you feel is right or wrong. You enact the punishment. That is not the due process. Due process is following the rules and the laws that govern something.
And I've heard, I can't quote it because I've not seen it, but I have seen others directly cite where article whatever under segment whatever their legality. Mm-hmm. It's not, they don't have they do. It is lawful under this article 15, whatever. Look it up. I don't know what it is. But I've seen people point that out, that yes, in fact, they do have the ability to be there. And as far as ask a cop or someone in the military what they think about ICE, ask anyone down at the Youngstown Air Force, they won't let them on the base. I know a lot of law enforcement and military that do agree with it, that don't hate them.
Again, this is not the proper way, right?
Yeah.
So this is every time that you have a prosecuted case, it is put before either a jury or a judge, and the judge figures out what's constitutional or not. Your feeling about how you have 2 attorneys that are going to make their best case for whether it is or not, and the courts decide that. The officer doesn't, right? So if you had a general that gave an order to a sergeant to go do a thing, right? Me, in my opinion, whether or not it was a legal chain of command event is not up to me. It is up to the military tribunals or courts or JAG or whatever it is to figure out if that was a legal command. And if it wasn't, they get in trouble. And if it was, it's blessed and cleared.
If you're participating in a No Kings rally and I come up to you and be like, I don't agree with any of this. I think you guys are being ridiculous and you're harmful and you're blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get in your face. Are you not going to be like, then get the hell out of here? What are you doing? We're going to be here. We're doing our thing. It's over at whatever time. And if you disagree, that doesn't give you the right to come get in my face. Yet when it's reversed, I think they do have the right.
So let me just spell it out. Go watch a couple of like when officers pull over people and they use their body cam footage and publish it out there.
Yeah.
And how much you think you know. Like you see these people saying, what's your badge number, right? You have to give me your badge number. So people have
right
how what's law and what's legal for a person that is not in a courtroom. The person that's either going to do it legally and it's going to stand in court, or they're going to do it illegally and it's not going to stand in court. But that's not the time to be able to, plead your case to a law enforcement officer about how they're doing something wrong. Because most of the time you heard bad information, you got bad intel, and these things are argued on a regular basis. So it's not static whether or not something is legal or illegal. So for instance, if we're like, we're going to invade Sacramento and we're going to take a law and we're going to say we're going to justify us taking over Sacramento versus this law. We think we're justified. So we do it. When it goes to court, they figure out whether or not it was justified. So if I came along and said, this action is illegal, don't do it, they're going to say, nope, on this piece of paper, I didn't have to ask for permission. We're going to talk about this after the fact, and it was illegal. Somebody's going to get in trouble. I don't want anybody to get in trouble, but I feel like I'm justified in the action.
Yeah.
The courts afterwards are the ones who decide whether or not something was legal or illegal, not the interpretation of a bunch of social media normies out there deciding what's legal and not.
Yeah. In my school zone instance, I had to go to court. It was an automatic court appearance. And you know what happened? The judge heard me out and said, I get you. I hear you. I agree. You don't have to pay this ticket, and threw it out. Thank you so much for understanding. I had my day in court. Was I still inconvenienced? Yep. Was it still annoying? Yep. But can you imagine how that would have went down if I fought with the cop instead of doing that?
Yeah.
If I said, let me now make this a bigger problem, I would have gotten arrested and then wondered, why are you arresting me? God forbid I got hurt. And then I wondered why you're using excessive force.
Let's see. Comparing U.S. Marshals. Oh, just in a federal capacity. That's my point. Is that those people, whether it be FBI, CIA, U.S. Marshals, ICE, these are federal agencies that have a very specific job. They're not policing people of a community. They are going after specific targets where if they have a warrant, if they're doing an investigation, get the F out of their way so they can do their thing, and then they go on to the other state that they're doing investigations on.
Yep.
That was my point.
Yeah. Julie says, on December 4th, Pam Bondi has given them permission to go after anyone that they deem domestic terrorists. I could go down any day.
And I agree with Julie on this, okay? I think we've been really, we've lowered the bar on how many people can be considered. It's what in politics they do is we're like, let's find a way to do something that we're not really allowed to do, and then take something that has rough public support and then pretend that the thing we want to do is the thing that has public support. And then you have to really explain yourself how that, like when we said during the Patriot Act and during the terrorist attacks of the early 2000s, we got familiar with what a terrorist was, right? And nobody liked terrorists. We thought it was an awful strategy for getting your way or inflicting damage on another person, right? So we were like, we don't like terrorists and we want to end terrorism.
Yeah.
So we're like, what about domestic terrorism? Can we have that? How about city terrorism? And as long as we tag those two things together, we can justify a lot of gray area action. And as long as we can justify it as a terrorist act, most people are like, oh, well, they were a domestic terrorist? Of course. What do you consider a reasonable person would say, what is a domestic terrorist?
I would think a domestic terrorist is someone here in our country living here that is plotting greatly against us. Large mass.
So against the country as a whole, they're a citizen of this country, but they are plotting against this country.
Yeah.
Let me give you some examples and you tell me if this would be plotting. Somebody who wants to blow up a communications center in Tennessee. Domestic terrorist?
Yeah.
Someone who hates the IRS and thinks you shouldn't pay your taxes. Domestic terrorist?
Do they do anything, or they just hate it and think it?
They protest, they get on a curb. Are they a domestic terrorist?
No.
Okay. Someone who builds pipe bombs and distributes it to people to blow up around cities.
Yes.
Okay. It's pretty easy to find out where just, a person that doesn't like this country a whole lot, and where they are actually doing things that to undermine or hurt this country using unconventional means, right?
Yeah.
But I think even in this administration, if you said national security is one of my most unfavorite, right? Because it's so loose and so general, you could make the claim that everything is against national security. Oil prices going up is against national security. A bomb threat is against national security. An immigrant coming into this country is a national security. It can basically mean everything.
Yeah. What is it? Is it Great Britain that has started arresting people for social media posts?
Yeah.
That's threatening, according to them.
Right. And that is a big slippery slope.
Yeah.
When we're so eager to use, authoritarian force against people who maybe were a mini threat, like you didn't want them to do the shit that they were, but they hadn't done the thing yet that would put them real in the terrorist camp, as far as I'm concerned.
Which is why I would think if Julie says they can deem anyone this, I could go down any day. I bet Julie wouldn't leave her house and go do something. She might not like it. We don't have to like it. We could think it needs reformed. But if I believe that, I'm not going to now go put myself in that situation. I'm not going to go seek them out and get involved if I think they're just looking for something.
And I know we're on the beginning of that slope. I'm not fearful that they're coming for Julie. I think that if Julie really misbehaved one day, did something like got in front of an ICE thing or an ICE brigade or whatever they are, that after the fact, they would justify hostile actions against her by digging up all the things she said before she did the action of laying in front of the cars that were in that brigade, right?
Yeah. Like
then they would claim
the comment above that said this person's, wife or family member or whatever has a rap sheet of protesting and blah, 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 and all this.
Right.
And I'm like, well, yeah, look what they're going to
but they
bundle
would
into
build
that.
the case against it that not only did she impede that motorcade, but she also had these feelings connected to things, and now she was a domestic terrorist. But she's not a domestic terrorist now before she's done an action.
Yeah, she was plotting, and so we just nipped it in the bud.
Right.
Not that Julie would.
No, we're using you as an example, Julie, but I don't think you.
Thank you for participating, Julie.
You guys are totally wrong. You're not down the middle on this issue. You're not objective. You're not logical. You always claim to be, but you cannot watch that full video and come to any other conclusion. There's nothing that can happen to you that you won't defend. I feel like it was objective. I said both were in the wrong. Like, what position do you want me to take? Are you just mad because I'm not supporting your angle that it was murder? He's a murder person? Is that the person said it would be murder?
I think Julie said murder, but I Penny Lane I have seen in multiple conversations we've had, and Penny Lane, thank you for interacting with us. We love having you here. It does feel a little though as if we don't say exactly what you want to hear, then we're not down the middle and we're not being objective and that we're being biased. When really you kind of are, you know, like
if you have right now Republicans mad at us because we said the cops could have taken different choices.
Yep.
And the Democrats are mad at us because the lady put herself in all the peril that she experienced.
Yeah.
Both are mad at us right now. You know you're objective.
That's down the middle and objective. You want us to say ICE is bad. She was murdered. They need to get out of there.
She did nothing wrong.
And she did nothing wrong.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, that's just not the case. It was a difficult situation in which two extremes collided, and it was a tragedy that was set up long before yesterday.
Jerry says it's no different than the National Guard coming in, respect authority. And, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if over the next couple of days that in Minneapolis, where this stuff went down, the protests and the looting and the fires and the rioting. I think it might be even the anniversary weekend of the George Floyd stuff. So it might be 2.0. If the Trump administration was smart, he would nip this in the bud in 2 seconds, because Minnesota's not going to do it on their own. And they've already challenged that they do not want, they're going to use National Guard forces to keep ICE away, not to keep the riots from happening and damaging businesses and causing havoc. So they need to nip that in the bud super quick.
I'm supposed to go to Minneapolis in February.
Yeah, don't do it. It's going to be, well.
You think it'll be like quelled by then?
If they do what I'm asking, they will. All right. That means that the National Guard will break these things up, put them in, it was so bad last time and it lasted so long. It could be months if they don't do anything about it.
I'm just not going to go anywhere. I'm just going to
stay home in your bunker.
I mean, even if I go to Minneapolis, I'm not driving around town. I go do what I got to do and leave.
Fun fact, don't use your vehicle as a weapon against law enforcement. FAFO. Yeah.
What's FAFO?
Fuck around, find out.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Found out. Jerry, I will bet Julie believes all ICE agents can only be right-handed. I don't know if I get that, but okay.
I don't know. When the Gestapo shows up at your door and they say, just go, when they say, get in the cattle car, just get in, when they tell you to go in the ditch, just march, that it? You listen to authority and hold that authority accountable that they follow the law. If you get too anarchist, like throw away the rule book, then, let's just say law enforcement misbehaves. Do you want someone to come to your rescue and defend you against law enforcement? You hope the courts are pure enough to be able to hold same standards with law enforcement as they do the public. Then you will trust. So I think the courts have a little bit of the blame of this as well. Everybody's jacking things up. Everybody's doing the wrong thing. Yeah. And so I want law enforcement to be the heroes, like those people who sacrifice themselves for truth, justice, and the American way.
Yeah.
I want the courts to be pure and not take and advocate for activist positions and be unbiased as well. And then the people will respect the fact that we're just enforcing laws here. So I'll take that argument, knowing that you have guys sitting in jail right now, right? You have a police officer who followed the actual rule book, did nothing in outside of the rule book, and a jury put them in prison, which they are still there. So to me, it's like the jury decided that the law doesn't count and this guy should be in prison. And the cop is like, you gave me a book to read. I mastered it. I did exactly what I was told to do, and I'm in prison? How's that fair?
Yeah. You could not pay me enough to be in law enforcement in this day and age. I couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't either. Fun fact. Oh, did that already.
That was another one.
ICE was hired to do a job. You don't like it. But that's the thing. Let's just say Minnesota didn't become a sanctuary state and they enforced the law. Would ICE be there? Again, you put yourself in the predicament where you invited illegals, which meant that now you couldn't adhere to the law because you just invited lawbreakers into your cities. And when they misbehave and do all the things that lawbreakers do, and you won't do anything about it, it's in the federal interest to send people who will do something about it. And you have this concoction of this cannot go any other way than sideways. It can't.
Yeah. People should listen to Beatrice when it comes to dealing with a cop outside your vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah. My husband, he was just telling me this morning, actually, that he was talking to someone yesterday and they mentioned their brother was in law enforcement. And he had said how frustrating it is for him. He was like, do you have any idea the amount of times they've got to deal with people that are like, only roll their window down this much. And they're like, you can't make me. You can't make me. You got to tell me this and that. And he's like, I will explain everything once I see your license and registration. I need to see some identification. No, you don't. No, you don't. I'm not giving you anything. You are required to give it to me and then we can take it from here. And they just want to argue through a crack of the window and make it difficult. And I'm like, you could not pay me enough.
So then the cop breaks the windows. They unlock your door. They unbug
drag
your
you
seatbelt. They
out.
drag you up, put you in handcuffs. They take your wallet, open your ID. Same thing happens. Now you've got a busted windshield, some bruised knees, and you still got your license anyway.
Oh, but they had a valid driver's license and they weren't a criminal and he used excessive force.
Well, they didn't get pulled out, right, for any other reason as they did not listen to a legal an officer at a legal traffic stop being given a directive. You didn't get thrown on the ground because of your license. You got dragged on the ground because you disregarded the authority of the officer that was asking.
Or they'll say all that force just for going 5 over. No, you were going 5 over, and then your actions led to all that force.
They made it much, much, much worse.
Yeah. Watching from Montana.
Well, welcome, Jim.
Hi, Jim. Thanks for watching.
Love Montana. It's one of my favorite states. You know why?
I've heard
Do you
nice
know why?
things. Because of the Dutton Ranch?
Not the Dutton Ranch.
I don't know.
It's because the populations are not concentrated, and so you could stand in a place and there could be nobody within 50 miles of where you're standing. And I love the feeling of having nobody around.
That sounds both beautifully peaceful and scary at the same time.
No, it's amazing.
Because part of me is like, but what if there's an emergency and what if I need a person?
Yeah,
like, yay, beautiful. This is nice.
Look
but
at the
now I need to
wildlife
be
and
around.
the landscape and nature all around me and not a single person. Like, I would rather have the threat of a bison, right, than a human being. I want to be anywhere near human beings at this point.
If you were in the woods and came across a bear, do you feel safer in that situation or in a city with armed people?
Bears are assholes. I do not want to be around a bear. I do not want to be around a bear. I've been running through the forest and a bear's up on the ledge, and I did not feel like I wanted to be there because I didn't know which direction to run. I've seen the videos where the guys are riding bikes through the woods. And a bear decides, it's a grizzly, of course, but it starts chasing them.
Oh, you've seen this. Okay. I was saying, is this a true story? But you're talking about what you've seen.
Yeah. And I'm like, what do? You're not going to outrun the bear. If the bear takes sight on you, you're just a meal. And the bear doesn't like kill you, right? It like says, oh, here's some meaty legs. The dude's alive and I don't care. I'm going to eat his legs. And then so you're sitting there and saying, hey, bear, would you please just kill me? Please put me out. I don't want to feel you eating my leg. And bears don't care because they're, primitive animals.
Never hiking ever.
Woo!
Have you heard you're supposed to run downhill if possible?
Listen, I don't listen to any of the logic that is given to me by other people.
Can't do this.
Yeah.
They're just like,
all I've heard is that you like square up to them and say, hey, bear.
Or get big. Get big, get loud.
That works with black bears and some smaller bears, but no, grizzlies don't give two shits. If they target you, you're just done. You're just done.
Yeah.
Remember, what was it? Without a paddle?
Yeah.
They said to crawl into a ball.
Oh, yeah. Little,
and it lifts them up and carries them. Hilarious. Let's see. And Jim is number 1. Okay. Comply. Simple. Yes.
Comply.
Fun fact, don't argue with law enforcement. Another fun fact. Someone has a gun, tells me to stop. I'm full stop.
Full stop. Hands up.
Yeah, but these like I said, these people have so much confidence. The person doesn't roll down their window, puts up a note to the officer and says, I'm a sovereign citizen. You can't ask me anything. I'm traveling, right? Yeah. They got in their head that this stuff is real. And then the cop's like, all right, I don't know why we're watching these videos, but you're completely wrong and your window's about to get broken. And now you've annoyed me. I have a job to do. Now you've just annoyed me, and then it's going to be incredibly worse than if you'd have been like 10-2. Hi, officer. Here's my ID. I'll take my ticket. If I have any problems, I'll go talk to the effing judge.
Jim says, now she's a mom and a poet and all things sugar and spice.
Aww.
No, I think he's
Model
talking about,
citizen.
yeah. Isn't that funny how we do that? Like, if you don't agree with someone that ended someone's life, like in this instance,
that Garcia guy,
suddenly they're a model citizen.
They are amazing.
And everything was great about them and they shouldn't have deserved to die. But then you have the instance just a couple months ago, we were talking about idols and worshiping like these people and putting people up on pedestals, knowing that all humans are flawed. And we happened to mention that Martin Luther King while known for great accomplishments, also had police reports against him for battering women. And we got called racists because we had the nerve to bring up a blemish on a human being's record or character. You can't have it both ways. Just admit you have bias on who you like and who you don't, who's now suddenly a model citizen with no faults and who isn't.
So when it and we cannot skim by that a life was lost. I don't care if you're a complete shithead, right? You don't deserve to die unless you pose an imminent threat to another person. Do you feel safer now that she's no longer alive and that humanity was in danger because of her?
Yeah.
Right? That's why I say the punishment was not proportional to the crimes that she committed. She should have gone to prison, and I would have celebrated that she can no longer get in the way of ICE from doing their job. That would have been proportional. But again, losing life, it was not the right way this should have gone down.
If it were, she was in fact gunning for this person and trying to run him over, would you feel that way?
Well, in this case, like, are you saying hypothetically?
Hypothetically. If it wasn't her, it was someone.
She pulled enough strings to die from protocol standpoint. Yes, she should have. When your hood is faced at a police officer and you hit that gas pedal, you have now cocked the gun and pointed it at a cop. And whether you were intending to shoot or whatever, you just cocked the gun.
Yeah, there have been instances where people purposely drove into crowds. They were trying to commit mass murder and everything.
And in Minnesota, there has been ICE motorcades that have been intentionally run into by people. So that is a common weapon. So when you take the aggregate of all of the evidence and all of the context of what's happened, again, very dumb on her part to play this game.
Yeah, we've talked before about how there are situations in which you can gather information and make a decision about your safety based off of all the information you are presented with. It doesn't mean that you're plotting against somebody. It doesn't mean that you want to hurt someone, but you're like, in a bad part of town, heard about robberies here, someone wearing a mask, I'm all alone. You know, you can make inferences based off of the information you're given, and it doesn't mean you're setting out to cause harm on someone. So knowing you're in a high emotion-driven, tense situation in a globally known chaotic environment, I don't know. Don't hit your gas pedal. Better yet, don't even be there.
And my opinion. I wouldn't, even if we took somebody like Martin Luther King Jr. and taken character flaws and tried to undermine the things that he did and shifted culture in a positive direction. I'm not going to make an offset and say that he's a terrible person, so I'm not going to celebrate what he did. Yeah. I'm not going to go the other direction and say, here's Lucy, she goes to church and she just plays bingo and she's a model citizen that did a bad thing, where I'm not going to offset the bad thing. The bad thing stands on its own. Doesn't matter who you are or what you've done before. You don't get a free pass for being a model citizen. Did you break the law? Yes, no. Punishment. That's it. That's all that exists in my world.
Mm-hmm.
Is leering going to be part of our lives now and forever?
I think, is he talking about they got their education from quality leering?
Yeah, Minnesota that meme. Somalian daycare center that was skimming money off the taxpayer.
Listen, I will listen to leering jokes into the end of time if it means 6'7" is no longer a thing.
Dude, why'd you have to do that?
At least the leering makes sense.
Jim says he's pro MAGA because winning is fun and President Trump is so funny.
Jim, you should meet Julie. You two will have a blast together.
Totally. Louis Lara, ICE agents are federal law enforcement officers. If you try to impede their duties like the lady in Minneapolis, results like this may occur. She was intervening in their duties. She had the ability to not get in the way or park and record their actions. Could have been way different. Again, made all the wrong mistakes. And especially if she is a mom and she's got kids, she put their futures at risk doing something extremely dangerous and not a good decision maker that had bad written all over it.
Yeah.
Like if you told me someone was a single mom, right, who already in 2023 experienced some bad things, you wouldn't expect her to be doing dangerous things in her spare time.
Yeah.
She'd be at home taking care of her kids so it doesn't become an orphan, and exactly what ended up happening. Domestic terrorism involves violent criminal acts within a country driven by domestic ideologies, political, religious, social, racial environments intended to intimidate or coerce civilians or influence government policy, and occurring within the nation's own territory without foreign direction. Key elements include violence, ideological motivations, and domestic sources, intent to coerce or intimidate location within the U.S. Perfect definition. Thank you, Emmanuel, for that. And I leered to be respectful and law and order. It was quality leering lesson for me. All right. I'm skipping, Jim. You got too many of the same joke in a row, so I gotta skip a couple. Bondi says anyone who's Antifa, anti-capitalist, anti-traditional family values. Antifa, domestic terrorism for sure. Not exactly working like the political lobbying wing of changing laws and whatever. They use violence as a method of perpetrating their activism. That is domestic terrorism.
Recently Googled just to see what information there is, because we've talked about biased information. What is Antifa? Have you ever Googled that? Mm-hmm. Antifa is an organization against violence and blah, 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 and all this and that. And I was like, are they though? Are they? Mm-hmm. Sometimes I feel like Google is captured. I'm just saying.
Let's see. Jason says, Penny Lane, no, you just don't like hearing another's opinion that does not align with your political mindset. And that is very true. It is really difficult for some people to hear contrary views.
No, she thinks that about us.
What?
She's saying because we told Penny Lane we are down the middle, and I don't think we think you want us to say what you agree with. She thinks we don't like hearing another opinion that does not align with our.
No, but it's like it's not
true.
Like it's not like I say my opinion and then you can't shoot at it.
Yeah,
right? That's the fun of conversation.
We are literally live so that you can interact and tell us your opinion, and we even read it. We could ignore it and be like, "Oh, they don't agree with us. Let's glaze past that." We allow you to. We hear it. We discuss it openly.
Yeah, and no matter if you're on the right or left, if you listen to the show long enough, there will be times where I point to it and say, I halfway agree with that. You're onto something there. I'm not bought into the ideology. So I take and reverse engineer things and dissect it and see how I feel about it right now with the context that's in front of me. I'm led by principles, not ideology.
Yeah. I have defended Republicans and Democrats depending on the situation. I could even say, I don't care for this person, but in this situation, they're getting hosed. That's not true. They didn't do that. They don't deserve this. We've done that for however long we've been doing this show. Yeah. And I'm sorry, you're just wrong.
Right. So, and somebody said debating libs is like performing CPR on a skeleton. Absolutely useless. Here's how, I'm not a big fan of Democrats. If you were to put my political leanings closest, I'm libertarian. That's most on the right side of libertarianism. And I look at Democrats as having a culture where unions, like, okay, so you're in a union, right? Will the union, has it been accepted culturally that if you're in a union that you can never do anything wrong? You will never be, every action will be completely justified and protected by a union? Or do they have the ability to, within their ranks, be able to take people who misbehave and deal with them accordingly, right? Well, the union mentality is, oh, he's on our team. I will protect him no matter what. And I will shape a narrative that always puts down the defense. No matter if he's right or wrong, he's right. And that's what I don't trust that.
Kind of like, we've seen Trump do that, where he'll kind of sing someone's praises for a while, but the moment they say, hey, I don't agree with this and I don't like what you're doing here, it's now they're not a team player. Oh, we got to let them go. They're a loon. And it's like, why? Because they just disagreed in this instance? Like, yeah, I don't trust that either. I think if you have your set of principles and morals and what you believe and what you think works and makes sense, you don't really abandon that and jump ship because someone else.
Well, you feel like you're doing your side a disservice if you say something critical about your side. That's not being objective. That's just being part of that tribe.
Yeah.
So that's why I challenged Julie the other day that when it comes to Trump, you have heard me mock him, say very critical things, and give him praise when it's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Go back in the history of all Julie saying anything. Find an actual criticism of Joe Biden. Could she bring it upon herself, knowing that she'd be undermining a person that she supports, to say something critical? If that's easy, well, yeah, sure. And the things that you can say about Joe Biden is like, I don't like the color of his suit, or I don't like the color of ice cream. You're not really being critical.
Yeah.
You're not taking aim at something that you're token gesturing in a criticism to say that you can be critical of your side, saying like, yeah, you know what? For the last 2 years of his presidency, he was mentally deteriorated to the point where he wasn't really doing anything. He was being protected by all of the people that are around him. And if you'd have asked him deliberate questions, he wouldn't have been able to answer them. Even to this day, I bet you Julie would say, yeah, he was good enough to be president of the United States during that last 2 years.
I can remember even back when I suffered from TDS and just hated Trump to hate him. And I couldn't tell you why. I just didn't like his attitude. I remember trying to justify things Biden did because I hated Trump. And I remember people would say, well, did you see he's acting like this and he's saying this? I even said, listen, this is a man who's lost a child. I can't imagine what that would do to someone's mental health. I did every bit of defending him I could. The moment I saw him on TV in his last debate against Trump and the literal drivel out of his mouth and the glazed over confusion, I went,
he's done.
Pull him.
Yep.
Pull him. He's done. He's out. This is not who we need. I don't like the guy who's arrogant and pompous, but it's better than this.
The zombie guy.
Like, be willing to not have a side, but just know what makes sense and what's going to work and go with that, regardless of who it is.
So Julie says, I'm going to go down screaming. I will not give up any of my rights for these SOBs. So my question is, are these actual rights or are these invented and imaginated rights? Like,
what think rights, you can do?
What rights do you think that you are giving up by if a cop comes up to you and says, show me your ID? You might feel like he has no right to ask you that. But in reality, in the law, he may have an absolute right to ask you that. So again, real versus imagined.
If someone comes to your house and they say, here's a warrant, we are here to arrest you, put your hands behind your back, anything you say or do can, and you think they're way out of line and they have the wrong person, and I know my rights, I'm going to scream and kick and go down. You don't know your rights. You don't have that right. You have the right to remain silent and comply until you go and get this figured out. It's not a kidnapping situation. Right. There is a difference. Right. And you don't have to like it, and you don't have to like where they're coming from. And if you want to go kicking and screaming, that's your choice. But then don't call it murder if you get hurt.
Yeah, if your rights have been violated, when it goes to court, there's going to be an attorney that says your rights were violated, and then all of that is undone.
Yeah. And again, maybe the court system's captured. Maybe your attorney's captured and you're like, I'm not going to get a fair trial. I'm going to go kicking and screaming. Okay, that's your choice if you don't trust it. But it's not then murder.
But that's when I start listening. If you say that, if you get to the point where you trusted the authority and you trusted the courts and then it goes sideways where an unjust thing happens, now it's time to put scrutiny on the systems.
Yeah.
Not sort of like, I think it's going to go down that way, and I think they're going to take my rights, and I think Trump's going to be an authoritarian. You have to actually wait till those things reveal themselves in the real world.
Yeah. Because again, you know what? I'll take back what I just said. If you were truly in a situation that someone is falsely arresting you and falsely bringing you in, and the court system and everybody is captured, you're like, going to be the poster child to go down for something that didn't happen, and everybody is in on it, and you are literally screwed over, and somehow you're killed in this instance, I could see that being more murder. I could see you being murdered by political means.
Yeah. And a prosecutor will investigate. A prosecutor will present that case. If that's the case, where they find that, hey, when we're out on stuff, this lady, she annoyed me yesterday. If she shows up today, I'm going to find a way to kill her, right? You find that, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
If they're like, wait a minute, the real perpetrator here is going to make us all look bad because we were kind of in cahoots and we need someone else to take the fall for this, and we're just going to label this person as this bad person for no reason, then, okay, you got yourself a situation in which you're being totally screwed by the system.
You got two choices here. You have one, trust in authority that are going to overstep their bounds and make mistakes and imprison innocent people and trample rights. Or you can have anarchy where there's nobody affecting rules. Do you fear the hordes of people that pay attention to no laws, or the innocents that are a byproduct of actual law enforcement? Which one are you going to pick? You don't get to have a third option.
Yeah.
It's one of the two.
Scroll all the way down and then work your way back. There's a zillion comments.
Oh, okay.
We got a zillion.
Keep up with the more recent ones.
Oh,
Okay.
man. Thanks, guys, for interacting with us.
Julie says, if they try to get into my car without probable cause or my home without a warrant, we got a problem. And yeah, that's what the courts are there for. You then
you
defend
do have a
yourself
problem
by saying you didn't have probable cause. So let's just say, hey, I was following you, I ran your tag, and your registration is expired, right? That's my probable cause. And then you say, well, you couldn't have. I might not have put my sticker on, but it was registered, so that's not. Now, are you pleading your case with the officer, or are you pleading the case with, you go to court and say, hey, he gave me a ticket, but he didn't have probable cause. He broke the rules, right?
Yeah.
And the judge says, oh yeah, you didn't have probable cause. The tickets I'm throwing out, due process.
Yeah. I mean, you could be found with something illegal in your car and you didn't have any type of warrant or anything to do a search. So you're getting off.
Yeah. So they misstep. You prove it in court.
Yeah.
It gets thrown out.
Yeah. It absolutely is a problem. We're not saying it's right. We're saying you should absolutely fight back the right way, the due process, if you will.
Exactly.
Because otherwise, if you end up dead, now what are you going to do?
Let's see. We have no idea who was running things during Brandon's time in office. And a lot of, let's just say the the mom goes on vacation, right? And now you're being ruled by people who are allowed to be in the house, but now the overseer, the person that is being held there, or the standards are being held because they're an elected official. Now all these people, they're going to be like, we got to pretend like Bernie's really alive, right? Weekend at Bernie's,
Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah. And so, but we're going to say that he's doing all this stuff. And he doesn't know any different. We can just whisper in his ear that he did it and he won't know any different. And then they can use the auto pen to fake his signature, and they can implement policies that he had no idea was implemented. And he's never going to say any different. Think of all the misdeeds that can be done in that 2-year period of time. So I'm with Jim here that I think a lot of the playbook was the Biden playbook. They just continued it, but there's a lot of misdeeds that happen that Biden probably has no idea even went down.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Watch the movie Law Abiding Citizen. Explains it all.
Okay, I was pulled over for speeding. I complied completely because I was speeding. I got a warning. Okay, that sounds like that worked out. And you know what? Because I'm a guy, I never get a warning. Never get a warning for speeding. I get tickets every time. I did have.
What are you, disrespectful to the cop? Do you say I know my rights and you can't take any of this stuff for me? And
when I was younger, I was a dick.
Oh,
when I was younger, I was a dick.
But it's because you were a guy.
So I think in my file, they pull it up. It says, this guy is a dick.
Probably.
Don't give him any warnings whatsoever. There was one time that I feel like an injustice was had.
Yeah.
And I'm not happy that. Can I tell the story?
Yeah.
Might as well. It's something stupid, but I'm still mad about it. To this day.
A little bitter about it.
So I was at an intersection, a 4-way intersection, weird 4-way intersection. And to my right, there was a light that was holding this traffic, right? To my left, there was light holding this traffic. And I was sort of in the middle of the intersection trying to pull out and make a left turn.
Okay.
So I waited. I couldn't tell what any lights were.
You were like committed to the.
Yeah. So I had to wait to follow traffic. There was nobody coming this way, and then follow the last guy through here. So I pull out after a guy and I go through. I went through a red light, and I said to the cop, I said, I couldn't see the red lights. If I went through a red light, so did the guy that I followed. Unfair, right?
Yeah.
So I went to court and I pled my case and I said, hey, I may have gone through a red light, but I didn't know. Can I get a little grace here? And the lady said, the prosecutor said, well, here's what's going to happen. You're going to plead guilty. We won't put any points on your license. You'll pay $100 fine, and that's it. And I said, well, I'm not going to say that I'm guilty because I'm effing not guilty. I didn't know that I was going through a red light. If I did, then that's on your end. I'm going to go in there and say, I'm not contesting it because I don't know. Do with what you have. And she said, if you do that, we're going to have to call, if you go through a trial, we're going to have to call the officer in here, and he's not going to want to come down here and tell us what happened. So I went up there and I said no contest. I got my $100 fine.
I don't want to be
I got
here
my
either.
one point license, but I was so mad. I was so effing mad.
Were you like what they call committed to the turn when you're in the intersection so that the light is now above
I
you?
was in a parking lot, like a retail shopping plaza.
Oh, okay.
Lot. There was no light where I was. The parking lot was directly between the two lights. It came out right in the middle of the intersection. So if I wanted to get out, I just had to time it so that I was following someone and hopefully they knew whether or not the light was red or green.
Devil's advocate.
Yeah.
I could see them saying, you don't hopefully know that they know. You don't go until you know.
Well, there's no way to know.
But right.
The lights were on the left and right.
If you were already sort of, like you said, waiting for oncoming traffic and kind of committed to going, what are you going to do? Back up? Like back up and see and then go forward and like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a sticky situation.
Yeah. Oh, I could have gone right, but I could have still gone through a red light if I went right. I could not win in that one. But it could have been to court like, okay, circumstances were shitty, right? You probably did. There was no accident, right? Everybody saw that you were following traffic through. Nobody was going to be going anyway because there was still traffic going through the light. And they could have been like, yeah, this is a dumb one. We're not going to hold you on this one.
That's the judge when I went to court for the school zone speeding ticket. She says, thank God nobody was hurt. Luckily, this ended up not being a very big deal. Just, make sure that you know now that is a school zone until 4:30, blah, 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 paid court costs, and we'll throw the ticket out.
Yeah,
I was like,
because you're a girl.
Very fair.
Because you're a girl and because I'm a guy.
It made sense.
Yeah. How many warnings have you got versus tickets? What's your ratio?
I don't know. That may have been, well, I got a camera ticket one time. Cameras.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one.
No, when you could flaunt your womanliness in front of a male cop, you get lots of warnings. Just say what I want to hear.
I don't get pulled over often, knock on wood. But I got a warning. I did get a warning one time from a cop that I would have absolutely not blamed if he gave me a ticket. And I think I've told this story that I was pulling out of a bar because I dropped someone off there and then thought my turn was coming up and it wasn't. So I did a whoop. Like a
drunk girl swerve?
Yeah. Like I looked, I'm leaving a bar. I swerved. I get pulled over and I went, oh, that really looked bad.
Joe would have been pulled out of the car. Bad. I would be walking a line, handcuffed, and put in the drunk tank.
The guy he looked at me. I explained to him the situation and I said, my turn is right there. And I didn't realize it's not right there. It's right there. And I said to him, I understand how that looked. It was just simply, I missed my turn. And he's like, have you taken any pills or anything tonight? I said, no, sir, I'm not on any medication. And he's just like, all right, be a little more careful. And I said, thank you.
Julie says I was on an icy road and the light turned yellow. I broke and slid through the red. I got a ticket. What a dick. And I agree with you. And especially, I take that back. I probably got one warning. I went like 10 years without being pulled over for anything. And I think in Boardman, that I was not speeding, but aggressively moving through traffic because I was in a hurry. And somebody was right in front of the police station. And I did get pulled over that time. And he was like, I want to make sure there wasn't some kind of emergency that you needed because the hospital's right down there too. And I was like, no, everything's cool. And he was like, stop aggressively driving. And he didn't give me a warning because I don't think he was going to issue any kind of ticket. So it was nothing to be forgiven. I guess he could have given me aggressive driving, but I don't know.
I got saved one time. I was leaving a bar with some girlfriends and we were taking someone to their car down the street at a different bar. And my friend and I were messing with the radio. And then I see lights come on and I'm like, oh my God. And it was a young guy coming up, so arrogant. I know he would have thrown the book at me. And he's like, you were swerving. And I was like, I was? And I said, I'm sorry. I was messing with the radio. That could have been it. And he's like, where are you guys coming from? All of a sudden, my girlfriend in the passenger seat looks at him and goes, I know you. And the cop goes, oh my God, what are you doing? And she's like, we're dropping this guy off as he's down here. And he's like, get the hell out of here. And she's like, I made out with him at a party a couple weeks ago. And I was like,
corruption, complete man.
I was like, thank you, baby Jesus.
Emmanuel says some cars are also targeted by law enforcement. Driving my Camaro, instant ticket, regardless of how small of an infraction. During driving my truck, it's like the president, total right away. I was driving my Mustang. This is when I was really young. This is probably 2001, something like this.
God, I feel like everybody had a Mustang back then.
Yes,
it was just the
Mustang convertible down, driving back from Columbus.
When you parked it in parking lots, you didn't take up 2 spots so nobody could park by you, would you? No. Okay, good. You weren't a total
coming back from Columbus. You've made that trip from Columbus, right? That stretch of road that goes through the farming communities,
like straight
shots.
Yeah,
so, not fun driving, but you don't want to be there because it takes forever to get to things to look at. And I was going, right?
I thought you enjoyed being out in the middle of nowhere where nothing's
not
around.
On a road that's boring. Not in a road. So I was doing triple digits for a long stretch of time. I had a couple of traveling partners that were doing the same speeds as I was, and we were hitting big triple digit numbers.
I would have thrown the book at you.
And same thing, I got pulled over. Arrogant young cop comes up to my door. He says, "This is a really nice car." And I was like, I know, I was probably going a little fast, wasn't I? And he said, I had you going 80. And I was like, 80 what? When? Like
800
5 months ago? And he said, and you could tell it was like a little 80 wink 80. And so he wrote me a ticket for 10 over the speed limit. I think it was 15 over the speed limit at the time, but that could have been a devastating.
Thank your lucky stars. Did you follow the speed limit the rest of the way?
No, I didn't. I got with another traveler.
Now listen, if you didn't, if you're like, thanks, man, and you continued to drive that fast and you hit and killed somebody, is it your fault or the cop's fault?
It's the cop's fault for sure. I wouldn't be me. I got to throw blame on somebody else.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. I got to be consistent.
Let's see. Where I live, the sheriff's department will give you a ride home. If you've been drinking, just ask.
Yeah, I bet you in small towns where everybody kind of knows one another, they're just ensuring safety. They're not there to write tickets and make money for the city or whatever. They just want people to be safe. So you have grandpa that has too many to drink and is like, you know what? I'm not going to ruin this guy's day or life by doing this. Let's just get him home. I know he's just a stupid, decision and whatever. I don't know if law enforcement can take those liberties anymore. I think that might be.
I had a friend years ago in my 20s. I was with a friend who got pulled over and got arrested for DUI. And the cop said, I don't think you're that impaired. And the only reason I'm arresting you right now is because all of this is on my dash cam and I'm required to. But I feel bad. Like he stated this. He's like, I think you're fine. In fact, my buddy who was driving said, had we not gone over a hill and the cop behind me's headlights shone in my mirror and blinded me, there would have been no swerve or anything. This police officer went to his court date and spoke for him and said, listen, I didn't even want to arrest this guy. I was doing my job, but he was very respectful. He didn't seem impaired. I had to do what I had to do, but I want to say that he did everything right in this instance. And I think you should.
Well, and I think there's some solution in this part of the conversation, because if you want to trust authority can't feel like it's just there to get you. Right?
Yes.
If you feel like you're being targeted, and I know a lot of black guys that go through Poland, they feel like they are a targeted person, whether or not it's a car they drive or the music that's blaring or how they're dressed or how they speak at officers, right? Officers are just over that now. The disrespect now have created a plane between cops that can say, look out for you and just want you to be safe, versus like everybody's so disrespectful, I got to get them before they get me.
Yeah. Ideally, I think the whole law enforcement police officer duty was, I'm here for you. We got to keep everyone safe. We're here to help when you need us. But how many times can you get spit in the face?
Right, before you get jaded.
Yeah.
And I think that it gets worse the more we try to defund cops and disparage them and accuse them of things. Everybody's playing that victim card, just making the role of a police officer incredibly hard to be a nice guy and still do it.
And now I think you do. I'm not saying all cops are getting a bad rap unnecessarily. I think you do have arrogant, power-hungry ones now. But it's hard to push back against them when you've sort of made the climate now that all of them are that way when they're not.
Okay, changing gears a little bit because I'm kind of over this topic now. We did give it an hour and a half? Yeah, we did it almost an hour and a half. So here's something, 2 health things. PJ is just like, oh, no! So ChatGPT is rolling out ChatGPT Health, right?
What?
And I put myself on the wait list, and basically it's their AI. So it can connect to all of the academic research, all the doctor white papers, everything, every specialty, every discipline in medicine. Now you have at your disposal. Now you can connect all of your wearables, your health records, everything, every test that you've ever done. You can give it access to it.
Like your My Chart.
Your whole My Chart, your wearables, where your heart rate's at. Now this thing can monitor you, right? And do what a doctor would do and whatever, but having the landscape of all of your health history, all of the best science that's out there. You can ask it a question like, what should I do? Or make some recommendations in this. How can I sleep better? How can I lower my heart rate and whatever? And it can give you disciplines that then increase your health. So you have an on-call doctor through AI that can give you information. Doctors probably don't like this too much, right?
Yeah.
Because if you've got a medical professional that you pay $0 for that has the same access to all the records and testing, that like going to the doctors will be to get the testing so you can feed it into your real doctor at home, which is ChatGPT. Would you do something like that?
Probably, just so that I kind of always know. Like, yeah, if I don't have to pay money to go find out something about my body or health and something could just tell me, I'd be intrigued.
What if you got a message on your phone that says, hey, this is your ChatGPT doctor. We noticed your heart is a little irregular right now, and you should probably go to the hospital because you might be close to a heart attack. You might need something done. So on the fly, being able to pay attention to your biometrics and tell you when there's something that is wrong going on.
And I mean, I would like that, but people also have to keep in mind the room for error. Like, I have a Garmin watch, and every so often I'll get a little notification. It'll say, let's calm down, breathe with me. Or do you need a relaxation technique right now? And I am either doing something actively where I am amped, and I said, oh, that makes sense. It thinks I'm freaking out. Really, I'm just yelling or angry or nervous, like I'm on stage or something, and it will pick that up. And I'm like, oh, it is sensing an increase in my heart rate. But I know this is not a cardiac arrest situation. It is not a ambulance to the hospital situation. So you got to kind of know too, you still kind of have to have a baseline, I guess, that AI instrument is not going to have for a while, if that makes sense.
But, okay, here's where we're going to push back against. The same argument was made when they had autonomous cars, right?
Mm-hmm.
When a new technology comes out, they put a higher standard of accuracy on the new thing than the old thing. So my argument would be the person without, an autonomous vehicle, what is their error rate and crash statistics?
Yeah.
Autopilot, is it going to make some mistakes that you wouldn't have made? Yes. But on the aggregate, it's 20 times safer than you. So you're going to pick are you going to put a standard on something that's interpreting data and giving you information and saying it needs to be 100% accurate? Where I've gone to the doctors and they weren't 100% accurate either.
Yeah.
It's better where you get more streams of information. It's better than going once a year to the doctor and getting half-hearted, half-assed attempt at diagnosing things when you have a window of information that's this big.
That's true. I remember an instance, a doctor at a hospital or wherever the heck I was said, I don't know what this pain is. Take a Tylenol. Follow up with your other whatever. Well, good thing I did. It was an endometrioma, and had it burst, I would have needed emergency surgery. Mm-hmm. And you told me go home and take a Tylenol.
Yeah. So are you going to be madder at the ChatGPT than you would at a real doctor when it makes a mistake? When there's a disclaimer that says it's not a real person. This is just information. And if we're like, hey, your heart rate is up there, maybe you should do something. You have ultimate authority. You can veto that and say, nope, I'm fine. Way easier than if the doctor's like, I'm going to insist that you go right now and get this test because I think your heart rate is elevated.
That is interesting. My father-in-law tracks different things. I don't know if it's a watch or something he wears. And he'll give that to his doctor sometimes. And he'll be like, yeah, good. You're doing all the right things. Keep it up. I mean, it's kind of similar where I don't need to kind of continuously go and pay for you to check. This can check. And I can go about my day and I'll call you if I have an emergency or I kind of like it.
Okay. And then RFK Jr. inverts the food pyramid as I cannot believe we lived with the broken food pyramid as long as we did, teaching kids all the wrong things to eat and things to do.
Yeah.
Finally, somebody is taking aim and undoing
Haven't they said before it should be upside down or
That's
something like that?
More proteins.
Yeah. And let me guess, people are pushing back that he's not a doctor and he doesn't know what he's talking about and he shouldn't be doing this.
Well, it was interesting. I read a couple of articles and the headline says that experts, are concerned about the need for inverting it. But then in the article, there's nothing they disagreed with. Everything that was there was factually accurate. I think in the medical field, the pushback that you get on the conventional wisdom, they see danger that if somebody starts doing something different and there's fallout, that somehow you're going to be responsible. So it almost makes them feel like they have to say, at least all of us are protected in the status quo, kind of stay there and we'll treat it with medications if there, versus someone's reading like, oh, it's safe to eat a lot of red meat and do a nothing but diet but red meat. And then they get some kind of big problem. They're like, I fear from the dumbest amongst us.
Yeah.
And now they're going to be able to take liberties, jump out of what they were doing before. That might be unsafer than just keeping exactly where they are. They might be, overweight and have heart disease, but that takes 30 years to get realized. You start having them make different decisions. They might have a heart attack tomorrow, which is far worse as far as I'm concerned.
Because there's pushback on everything. You could say, and this is a real argument I've seen people have, you should eat more fruit. Fruit is good for you. Fruit is full of nutrients. And then you're going to have, fruit has a lot of sugar. If you're trying to lose weight, you can't have all this sugar. You can't eat fruit. That's going to spike your blood sugar and it doesn't have protein, blah, blah, blah. And then someone's like, okay, well, show me a fat person that got fat from fruit. It's better than junk food. And then they're going to say, but it's blah, blah, blah. It's like there will be pushback in an argument for everything. So, yeah, it's like anybody in a position to make a change has to be so delicate as to how they word it and what they do. And another position you could not pay me enough money to be in is his or
when you have the
else's.
ChatGPT nutritionist that can take your body type, what's happening inside, and make recommendations of things that you're deficient in, because all of what you said has seeds of truth. All of it's good advice. The problem is that every person is so different. There's not a set of advice that goes for all people. You can, there's some people that would eat a cheeseburger right now and their body would go into complete shock because of what they ate yesterday and what their food habits are so much different. Where there's somebody who sucked down 12 cheeseburgers and 5 sodies yesterday.
Yeah.
And a cheeseburger is not going to make it any worse than it already is.
Yeah.
And that's why it has to be so, crafted for each person.
Yeah. It's interesting. Have you ever seen people like, there was a woman recently, I don't know if she lived to be like 90 something or 100. She was featured and they're like, oh, what do you do for longevity? And she's like, I don't know. I have a Dr. Pepper every single day. And they're like, great, let's all drink pop and sugary drinks because she's doing fine.
Yeah, let's do that.
And it's like, you have no idea what her makeup is or what else she does. Or yeah.
So that's what I'll wait for next is the ChatGPT nutritionist. We're going to fill every expertise with AI and tell us exactly what we need to do.
Is there a downside to that? AI knowing everything. They're going to know.
Yes and no. The data that it draws from is not regulated. It is curated. So I'm sure ChatGPT can run across some data that's a little suspicious, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully they get it to a point where it can take the stuff that's too off the reservation and make sure that it doesn't deliver that to people as good advice for good medical advice, right? And then there's also captured industries that how much, like, let's just say the corn lobby, right? They benefit from people eating a lot of corn. And so I could put on a campaign to make sure ChatGPT recommends a ton of corn to people. Now you're like, oh, hey, see your blood pressure is a little high. You should have corn on the cob tonight, right? And now you're getting captured information. So you have pollution where it just grabs information that might be suspect. You have captured information where the pharmaceutical lobby or the corn lobby or whatever poisons it on purpose.
Oh, no. Now I feel differently.
Why?
Now I feel differently.
Why?
Because how easy is that going to be? Like you said, it's pulling from this information so it can be infiltrated and corrupt. And who am I going to believe? A computer that I know is reaching other.
It's just another reflection of it. You don't think when you go to the doctor's office and they prescribe a medicine, absolutely,
there are drug reps and there are kickbacks and there are things. So yeah, it's going to come down to who do you trust, your particular doctor, that person, or information that this AI can pull from all sorts of.
But then you can train your AI and say, hey, you're going to give me recommendations. I want you to discredit XYZ. I don't want your answer to all these pharmaceuticals. I don't want to take them. I don't want your answers to be processed foods because I'm not going to take them. Now go to the next entries on there, excluding the ones that have obviously poisoned this well.
Yeah. I was watching a news story the other day about this new GLP-1 pill. Have you heard of this?
Yes.
Now instead of an injection, pill form for weight loss. And I did appreciate how at the end of this, they said, obviously you need to talk to your doctor. Diet and exercise matter. Yeah. You can't just have this, blah, blah, blah. I would have loved for them to go even a step further and interviewed physicians, doctors, people who would be prescribing it and say, what do you see when this is prescribed? Are there kickbacks? How does this work? If a drug rep comes, what do you get in return? Just to know. Not saying that they're going to all of a sudden start prescribing things unnecessarily, but just would be interesting to know how that works.
And how much of the information is unadulterated. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep, that would be cool.
But anyway, the technology will get better and it will be able to, by design, like you are in control of AI. You could train it into making decisions that you want it to make. It's not supposed to be your master. It's supposed to be a tool that you use to get to information that you can't get to right now. You don't have 90 experts sitting in front of you at any given time. You can extrapolate information on your own by using it as a tool. Doesn't take the place of your actual doctor.
It is sort of kind of like the better version of Googling your symptoms.
Yeah. Oh, don't do that.
And people do that all the time.
You're gonna die. Every hang up symptom.
Googled my symptoms and it says I have this or it could be this.
Yeah.
Have you ever Googled your symptoms and you were right?
No, I don't do that.
I feel like that's happened to me before. We're like, I have these symptoms. It could be this or that. Let me look into it. I think it's this. I think it's that. I still go to the doctor and I say, so based off of this, I think it might be this. And they're like, yeah, probably. And I was like, thanks for that.
Okay. As a tool. All right. Now you get to talk about anything you want to talk about. Did you come to the table today needing or wanting to talk about anything?
I am a little curious about PBS.
Yes.
PBS now is officially done.
Yes.
From what I have read. This is a very controversial topic.
It is not.
The government has taken funding, and people are saying they're taking your Sesame Street and all your educational programming, and they're hurting kids, and they're doing this and that. Is PBS, or should I say, was PBS not a publicly funded station? They were funded by the government.
Right.
Now, they did say, like on their advertisings and on their commercials, this is also funded by viewers like you.
Yeah.
And there was PBS-a-thons. I wonder how much money they took in from the public. When people said, yes, I enjoy public broadcasting programming, and I am going to write you a check to keep this on the air, compared to what they were receiving from the government, I'd love to see what that was. Only because when you get these people up in arms about how horrible for the government to cut funding to this, are the people saying that the ones that open their checkbook and send money to something they wanted to keep on the air? And do you want to be an organization or a business solely funded by the government when you know, since history until the end of time, our government is two sides that will always be fighting and will do anything they can to make themselves look good and the other side look bad, and there's going to be cuts and there's going to be changes. Do you want to rely on that to be your sole viability?
So PBS grew as a monster over time and became a political entity rather than just public broadcasting. So let's just say find PBS when it was young and it was putting Sesame Street and whatever else plays on there.
Peg plus cat.
Right? There's enough people that would support the programming that you could collect it from viewers if you kept it nice and small and just did the programming that those people were willing to pay for. Well, the product cost more because it was 10% Sesame Street and 90% political bullshit. So all you had to do is cut the 90% bullshit out and say, hey, you know what? Now we can operate with 90% of our expenses gone because we're not a news apparatus. We're not a, political campaigning and lobbyist wing. We're just child's programming, right?
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, the donors, the people who are willing to watch it and pay for it, now we'll cover all of your children's program that you would ever want. So if Sesame Street had an audience and those people were willing to pay for it, and they did those fundraisers and Sesame Street's on the air, somebody would say, oh, so you bring Sesame Street, you get $5 million worth of funding. Anybody out there that has a TV station that can broadcast Sesame Street, I bet you'd have somebody take you up on it.
Yeah.
It's the other shit that they didn't want to get rid of that came along as that forced package part of it. The taxpayers didn't want to be funding a liberal megaphone at all. And so once they got political, they ruined the children's programming. But that's always what happens.
But ideally, if somebody were so upset by this and enough people were, it could potentially come back funded by the public.
As an entity, no. But the programming is still sellable. You don't think that there's still marketability on Sesame Street. And all you got to do is say,
yeah, didn't
someone
it just
come
move
license
to?
it. If it's got an audience and it's got funding, just sell it to somebody who doesn't have to be on PBS. Okay. In an era where there's 3 television stations and there's some areas that have none because they don't have the populations to warrant someone erecting a tower, things are too far away. You turn on your channel and there's just snow because there's nothing there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now PBS makes sense because there are limited options in some places. You can't make that argument if you were like, if you're like there are areas of the country that just don't have the population to do it. There are other means of getting them information like satellite internet. I would much rather say, oh, your household doesn't have programming for children's stuff. Here's a Starlink satellite. Here's $100. It's free of charge, taxpayer funded. Now you have all of the same information that everybody else does. You don't have to have a network dedicated. We're in a different time now.
So the fall of PBS rests on whose shoulders? Current presidential administration or the public and changes and
the bastard
broadcasting over time.
It shouldn't have existed for the last decade as it was, because it was no longer serving the purpose that it once had. People have argued that it is, but I just don't buy it. And again, attaching it to be a political apparatus for one party did it in. So let's just say when you got wind that they're taking aim at it, and then the directors are like, we don't want PBS to go away. Let's just cut out all of the political bullshit. And then we'll go back in front of Congress and say, okay, you guys won. We cut our funding down by 90%. Will you fund us now? And they're like, oh, cool. We like the children's program. We just didn't like the political side. Do you think they would have survived? Yes. But they were insistent that the political side was important enough.
They as in PBS.
Yeah. So if Planned Parenthood, if we're like, hey, you know what? We got breast exams and these things that we can give women and all these services that are important to them. Cool. Get rid of abortions. No, we don't want to get rid of abortions. Okay. We're pulling funding. So you get to choose either get rid of abortions and keep all those other services there and we'll fund you, or abortions are so important to us. Let the whole thing effing die if you don't get your way.
Yeah. Which is kind of why I ask why somebody would want to be an entity or a business or a company or corporation or whatever it is, knowing that your sole survival depends solely on somebody with that power, somebody that is like, you want my money, you want me to fund you, then I get a say in what you're doing.
Exactly.
And if you don't like it, don't take my money.
That's exactly right. And that's the same thing with the SNAP benefits. If the taxpayers don't think that you should be eating Snickers, I don't care who thinks you should. I'm the one who's paying for it. And, and if there's enough of me that says you shouldn't have it, only way you can go have it is make me not pay for it. And I'm cool with, you can have anything you want when you're effing paying for it.
Is there any type of organization, situation, company benefit, anything that you think justifiably should be funded by the government?
Things that you cannot provide yourself. Like I can't buy a military and defend my shores. I can't get together with a group of guys and defend my shores. That should be a government operation because it requires a big footprint to be able to protect us so that outside sources don't destroy inside sources.
That's a good one. Any others?
Communication, transportation, maybe. Where if California didn't have an interest in talking to Ohio, they build it for themselves and they don't connect it with the other connected territories of the United States.
Infrastructure?
So, yeah, national infrastructure would be managed by the government.
How about, this might be a silly question. How is law enforcement funded?
Different, depending on what law enforcement.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. So like for example, a local town's police officers.
So you have property tax, you pay property tax and it funds city services. So your fire department, your police department, your schools.
The more money residents are willing to pay
on their property,
maybe more officers, more equipment, more whatever, directly related to them.
So I would say 75% of funding comes from your local city. Maybe 20% comes from your state and like 5% comes from the federal government.
How about
fake numbers, by the way?
Fake numbers.
They're totally fake numbers.
How about FBI, CIA?
Those are all federally from taxpayers. Yeah.
So that is still our dime.
Yeah. When you pay federal income tax versus property tax, your property tax goes to your local guys. Sales tax goes to your state guys. Federal income tax goes to the federal guys.
Secret Service agents.
Federal taxes.
ICE agents.
Federal taxes.
Military.
Federal taxes.
So it is still us paying then. It's not the government is the only one footing the bill. But they're...
Wait,
it's all the
who are we
people.
talking about?
Military.
Yeah. The whole country is paying for the military.
Who was paying for PBS?
That was a federal program for broadcasting. So it was a federal, but they also get state.
And where does that money come from?
What do you mean?
if the federal government gives you money,
Yes.
where'd they get that money?
Taxpayers, federal income tax.
So we are funding everything.
Yes. No matter what, we're funding everything.
So couldn't somebody make the argument, we were funding them, you didn't have the right to take the money away?
Say that again?
Could a viewer say, my taxes went to you and you gave it to them and I support them, you took my money away. It wasn't yours to take away.
Well, on the aggregate, like if now it's not federally, then those people who want to fund it could just fund it
Directly. Yeah.
If there's enough of them to vote to have it stay funded, right?
Yeah.
Then there's enough to support it after it is not funded.
So could they, I'm just trying to be devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
Could they say, I'm choosing to keep this around and I want to put my dollars towards them. So I'm going to not pay you this portion of my taxes. I'm taking that money back and I'm giving it to them. I bet you they won't let you.
Buffet style.
Yeah.
Like you can choose to support the things that you
kind of like
with.
you said, why would I pay for a road 3 towns over? I'm never, ever using that road. I want to pay for my local law enforcement. I think we need more cops on the street, and I'm taking it from here and giving it there.
I would be interested to run a mock of that to see what people would choose, what would get immense amount of funding.
Yeah.
And just like when the cable channels went a la carte, that some stations that nobody watched disappeared because nobody would choose them. Like there's some programs that would go bye-bye if you could choose to put your funding on them.
Or what if there's like some farming country that has vast land and field that's not directly lived on and it's not a huge population of people and all their stuff goes to shit because they don't have anyone paying for it.
Exactly. Yeah, that would be interesting.
It is so complicated.
Yeah, and that's why all of those things are we send representatives to the halls of Congress to make those decisions on our behalf, to argue that stuff out and give those budgets out. They're responsible for delegating and apportioning those funds.
This is why it's so funny when you see people on both sides fighting each other over a situation that they feel is so simple. And nothing is simple. Yeah. It is so complicated. Mm-hmm. Well, we shouldn't fight each other.
Maybe we were constructed so that we could fight each other. See, that's a very feminist view where the confrontation and the is part of the problem when maybe proper fighting is how it goes down.
I think open discussion is absolutely necessary. Talking about things is necessary. Debating, trying to find other ways, being devil's advocate, trying to see something from another point of view, all necessary. That's not what we do. We as a people. It's you're stupid, you're racist, you're insert whatever name. Yeah.
We have
toddler fighting.
If we sent smart people to go fight and they talked in a British accent and they used Old English as their
decorum
and they were proper and they held their pinky up when they drank things and then they can
if they were like
argue properly because they're intelligent.
I see your point of view. However, here's what I find fault. I don't think it would work very well because you're not quite considering
100%.
Instead of it's like you're so dumb you don't know what you're talking about.
Then you have Jasmine Crockett and these and AOC, right? That we listen to these people who they're not arguing. They're saying dumb things out through a wide megaphone. And then the rest of us are like, oh, she's kind of right. And we're like, stupid people ruled by stupid people.
And you also have to have the people that are having the discussion. Everybody wants what's right and what's good for everyone. Not what we have. No. We have, I want to win and I got to manipulate you to do it. That's what we have.
That's our courts. But that's everywhere. Like, do you think if you send a defense and a prosecutor in there, right? Their job is to argue with one another until they come to a common ground. One's going to want one way, one's going to get the other way, and whoever's better at pleading their case wins at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's why I trust it. It's confrontational because it's supposed to be. Because if they were just like did too much agreement, you don't think much justice would be getting done, right?
Yeah.
The prosecutor is really mean, and I don't really want to fight with him. So let's hammer out something where we don't have to fight with one another. You don't want that. You're like, hey, you got two warring armies. Let's see if we can have tea first and talk it out first, right? That usually doesn't work either.
This person says, wow, this comment section, combined brain power couldn't heat a small room. Comment sections combined
Thank
brain
you.
power.
I'm right, you're wrong. I like the name
I'm right, you're wrong.
85. Does that mean you were born in 85? I'm guessing I was born in 85.
Brian says they don't want to hear your opinion. They want to hear their opinion coming out of your mouth. If you don't appease them, then you are the enemy and whatever demeaning term they see fit, racist, homophobe, etc., etc.,
Yep,
etc.
but Brian, thankfully it's all been overplayed and they took terms and vocabulary that used to be really meaningful. They bastardized it to a point where it doesn't really mean anything more.
Yeah, it used to be if someone's like, you're a racist. Hold up. Wait a minute. No, I'm not. This is serious. You're wrong. You better hear what I meant by that. Now, if someone's like, you're racist, I'd be like, okay. So anywho, as I was saying, it's like, boy, who cried wolf?
Can I point this out real quick?
Yes.
So this girl in Minneapolis, if she were black, would all of this be different?
I didn't even hear what race she was.
She's a white girl.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Now, same circumstance, same way of playing out. Would there be, even though we had a white girl who got shot, if a black girl would have got shot, would there be, she only got shot because she was black?
What was the ICE agent?
Oh, I don't know. I think he was a white dude.
I think that would matter too.
Okay.
If a white person shot a black person, I think there would be a new narrative to this story. I do. I think people would.
Well, we have the
capitalize on
negative
that.
side of that, where that person saying it would say, I bet you if that girl was white, she would have never got shot. And now we have the negative value where she was white and she did get shot.
Yeah.
Just curious.
BJ says ICE agent is a white man.
Okay.
How about if the ICE agent shot a white man? If the person in the vehicle was a man, would we feel differently?
Same scenario playing out. I don't know. But it's interesting. Little thought experiment to see if we'd have felt any differently. If the reaction would have been different, if the politicians would have been saying different things, had she been that way.
If the ICE agent shot a person in the vehicle with a criminal record, would it have been different?
Who had the criminal record?
The
girl?
driver.
The driver did?
Yeah.
I believe she had a checkered past. I do believe that was the case.
And
but again,
yeah.
all of this stuff coming out, I wait a couple weeks to find out what really happened because I don't know, like the stuff I read where there was some abuse within her household, where cigarette burns on her kids' arms, that kind of thing. But I don't know if that's part of the conspiracy to blemish versus, whatever.
And here's the thing. If there is a rap sheet, does that matter in this situation?
I don't think it does. I think what your actions, I'm not going to lay down any cover fire for you. You did dumb things. You got yourself killed by doing it. Yeah. And that stands on its own.
That is the prosecutor's problem. That is I need to make a case against their character and show intent to harm this ICE agent.
Now, if the ICE agents, like let's just say this lady over the course of 2 weeks, every day was an obstacle. So they looked into her, finding out that she's dangerous. She's been in prison a couple times. She has a drug habit. And now a person that you know something about is in front of you. Do you think you would jump to the sidearm as quick, knowing the person will probably hit you because you did some research on them? Does that change the story at all?
Does it change this? This is fun. Does it change the story if the driver of the vehicle purposely gunned it with the intention, a clear intention, to kill this ICE agent, but it was a kid driving?
Interesting.
Does that change what the ICE agent should have done?
I don't think it would have gone down any different because I think those people are trained that when that scenario happens, you have 1 second, split second to decide, and he decided.
Do the people cry murder? It was a kid. They don't know any better. You should have taken different steps.
Do we feel less bad when a certain profile gets gunned down versus a different profile?
Yeah. Interesting social situation. Brian says, totally agree, but it's still the status quo. Instead of healthy debate over differences of opinion, it just has devolved into the insanity it currently is.
Absolutely.
And do you think we talked about when at the beginning of the show, when we talked about the climate that had been formed in which this tragedy took place, do you think we're in a purposefully created climate
Yes.
to be this
Yeah. The
argumentative.
next generation threw the status quo out of the window, and they thought they can do it better, and they're making it up on the fly, and it's not engineered. We're throwing ancient wisdom out and re-questioning things that have traditional values. Like, we want to say the family unit is somehow archaic and it served no purpose, so throw it out. And then when you get the result of a non-centralized family, how people behaves, it's a different, formula. And so, yeah, they made some bad choices. The experiment really went wrong, and now the consequences are this is where we end up.
Julie says, you assume the ICE agents are trained. They are given a 2-week training. Are we to assume ICE agents, do you start in law enforcement and then become ICE? Or can an ICE agent be like, any Joe Schmo off the street applies, and after 2 weeks training, you are an ICE agent?
The way I believe it works is they, especially now when they're doing a lot of enforcement, they are recruiting outside of law enforcement. So they could, you could apply,
the replacement,
go through training, and then you can play a support role with ICE. You're not going to be the guy that's, rushing into a place and doing a raid, right? But you're in a support role where all of the enforcement needs like the new guy that doesn't have much training. And that's probably what she's
that's a little scary. I'm not going to lie.
And so I'd like to see the statistics of who the law enforcement professionals are. What that guy was he a new recruit that came in off the streets and he was the driver of the car that put a sidearm on him and, let him loose? And that's sort of what she's charging. We don't know. I'm sure there's both of those. There's trained professionals who have been in law enforcement for 30 years, and there's ones that have been on the job for a month and is in a support role right now. And as soon as you tell me which of those two that dude was, then we can come to a conclusion. But it's too sweeping to say ICE agents are only given 2 weeks training. I think that is patently false. So, all right, we got to get out of here for today. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Yes,
we will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. Thank you for your support.